Hello everybody and welcome back to the page. I am your host Ashriel Moore, the ambassador of the African Diaspora Collective here in Israel. And as per usual, I want to continue to introduce you to the various communities of African ancestry here in Israel and to take a deep dive to allow you all to really become familiar with these communities, because most people are not even aware of the fact that there are more than 500,000 people of African ancestry residing right here in Israel, which is 5% of the Israeli society, which is approximately 10 million people. And what do you know? Most people are not even aware. Most people know nothing about these communities. Most people, the only thing that people know is what they see on the news, what they may read in some news articles, and what they may see on social media. But you don't see and you don't hear about these communities. And so I want to dedicate the page to these communities so that we could be able to hear and see about these communities. So this time what I want to discuss is actually the institutions of the African Hebrew Israelite community that is stationed in the Village of Peace in Dimona. This is the largest concentration of African Americans outside of America in any place in the world. It is the largest community of vegans anywhere in the world, and it is a fully self-sufficient community. Now, why do I want to focus specifically on these institutions? Because I'm 100% certain that this is a working model for other communities of African ancestry wherever they may be in the world. Because this allows then the establishment of internal institutions that are functioning, the establishment of enterprises, of businesses internally that are functioning, the establishment of ministries internally, of a governmental structure internally that is functioning. All of these are great models to be able to use to allow us to be able to have a functioning society wherever we are in the world. And one thing that I believe is one of the problems that we have is we're too dependent on external sources, on external institutions, on external governments, on external streams of income to sustain us. And so in that case, then we lose our power, because we have to come to the table not with any power, not with any strength, not with any leverage, but we have to come to the table begging and asking. And in that case, obviously that gives the power over to others, over us, because then they can determine what they're going to give us, what they're not going to give us, how much they're going to give us, when they'll give it. And so everything that we do then internally would be dependent on external sources. And so that's been the issue all along for people of African ancestry. And so when you have a community like this that has built these institutions internally, no, they may not be perfect, but they're a perfect model. And all we have to do is just continue to build on this foundation that has been laid and strengthen it. And then that would allow us then the ability to be able to come to any type of negotiation, to any table, anything from a position of strength, of power, and of leverage, and not have to beg anybody for anything. If anything, we're going to do business with you. If anything, we're going to partner with you. If anything, we're coming to the table not to ask you for anything, but to show you what we could do for you. And then now this is what we need from you in order for us to be able to do what it is that you need from us. That's how we should operate. And so these institutions and these enterprises, these businesses, this governmental structure internally in the African Hebrew Israelite community is one that I believe is good and is right for our people. Now, initially, when the first members of the community arrived to Israel in 1968-69, there were just a very small amount of people. We came from Liberia, where we purged ourselves for 2.5 years. So we didn't come with a lot in terms of the monetary contributions. But we did come with is a desire to establish an alternative to what we had experienced in the time in America and in Liberia. And now we're back in the Promised Land, we're back in the Holy Land, and we're looking to establish a society that will be a model society for our people wherever they are in the world. And so starting in 1970, 71, going forward, the ideas of establishing these various institutions here in Israel actually came, but these were being built on foundations that had already been laid, for example, in Liberia and in the United States of America before going into Liberia. So we'll start with the school, right? Now you have, first of all, you have the school itself, but then right next to the school you have the kindergarten. The kindergarten, you actually have pre-K. You have pre-K, then you have kindergarten, and then within the school itself you have from first grade all the way to 12th grade. Now, one of the great things here is that these children study with the same people from kindergarten all the way until they finish high school in 12th grade. And one of the reasons why it was so important for us to have our own school was because when we initially arrived to Israel, the Israeli institutions, the educational institution, was not so welcoming of us. They really didn't allow our children to study in their schools. And so it was no problem. We established internally what was called initially the Kingdom School in Holiness. And then we established the Achva School. When you hear of school, I want you to understand that the edifice itself, the Achva School and the buildings were only established in 1994. But prior to that, the Kingdom School in Holiness what was an institution without edifices. And so we would some of the children would study outside on the rocks. I mean, they were improvising. Other times they may sit on benches in a bomb shelter, on benches with splinters. And then other times they may just sit in the kitchen. So in the morning, the kitchen would be the classroom, and then in the evening time or afternoon, it then goes back to being a kitchen. And so this is what was happening for years up until the establishment of the school itself in 1994. And so it was important for us to have the school as well, because it was important also for us to be able to pass on a lot of the cultural traditions to our children. We don't say that we're educating the children. We say that we're dedicating the children. So the dedication is that we're actually providing to them tools that will allow them, first of all, to be able to succeed in life, in the world. But the foundation, the fundamental principles is, first of all, some manners. How to say thank you, how to say good morning, how to ask for something, please. These fundamental things that seem kind of fundamental, but they're not anymore. I mean, they say that these are rare now, right? You sit in the school. In the morning, we would recite the 10 Commandments and recite the Shema, Hear, O Israel, Psalms 23. And then after prayer, we get the school day started. These things were important. It's important for us to learn about, to study about who were we before arriving to America during the transatlantic slave trade. It's important to study about Kemet. It's important to study about Mali. It's important to study about Timbuktu, about Songhai. It's important to know about these people, Mansa Musa. It's important to know the history, the rich history that we actually come from as a people, because this education from the West would have you thinking that the history of people of African ancestry started in the 15th century and that was it. But there was so much more before that. I mean, it's important to understand where was the foundation of writing. It's important to understand who developed a lot of these things that we see today that seem so regular, so fundamental. The people of African ancestry who actually created these things, the minds behind a lot of these things that you just don't hear about almost. And so that's what we wanted to provide to our children. We wanted to provide to the children the knowledge of self, the knowledge of identity. We wanted them to know how children of Israel were exiled from the land and how is it that we are connected to this land, which they're not teaching in other places. So we needed to establish our own institution to be able to teach these things that are very, very much important. In addition to history of the world, in addition to reading, writing, arithmetic, in addition to these things, obviously, but the foundation is manners, knowledge of self, our biblical and our historical heritage. These are the foundations of this institution, of this school. And so you provide these tools to the children And once they go out in the world, they could be, wherever they are, they could be able to conquer. Because they have the fundamental principles of life. We're looking at building character in the children. And then, obviously, everything else could come along. But you're dealing with somebody who is not trustworthy, who's a liar, who doesn't have fundamental manners. That's not really going to get you far in the world. And so these are the foundations that we're actually teaching in the school. Secondly, we want to look at the health center, which is called the Beit Chaim, which is the house of life. Now, mind you, we also didn't have access to the health institutions in Israel. And so in order for us to be able to prevent ourselves from needing to go into the hospital, from needing to go to the clinics, then we had to develop a different way of life. That way of life that we developed is called preventative health. That means that let's do all that we can to prevent ourselves from needing to go to these institutions, to prevent ourselves from needing to receive these pills that they're given, to prevent ourselves from needing to allow them to prescribe to us what we need to do in order to preserve our life. Let's do everything that we need to do, at the least, to be able to put ourselves on the path to perfect health. And so what do? One, we had to change our diet because we understood, obviously, that meat, dairy, eggs, fish, and other animal byproducts are directly connected to a lot of the, if not all, of the chronic ailments, at the least, that people of African ancestry in America, African Americans, and people with other places on the continent and other places in the diaspora experience. And so what we do, we change our diet to a fully vegan diet. What else did we do? We understood how harmful salt is to the body. And so what we do, we cut down the consumption of salt 50%. How do we do that? We have what is called salt days, and no salt days. So you have, for example, Sunday is a no salt day, Monday salt day. Tuesday, no salt day, Wednesday, salt day. And that way you then cut down the consumption of salt by 50%. How else do we do it? We need to strengthen our immune systems. And so what do we do then to strengthen our immune systems? One, when the seasons are changing, during the seasons change, at certain hours in the morning, we would take what is called garlic and olive oil. It's not called garlic, it's garlic and olive oil to strengthen the immune system. And then in addition to that, it is incumbent on every member of the community to at least get one deep tissue massage every month, at least once a month. In addition to that, every quarter of the year, we have an entire week where we don't consume, 1 week we don't consume any foods that are cooked. So it's all live, or what we call all raw foods that are not cooked. Then you have another week that is sugarless week. No sugar consumption, no sweets consumption for that entire week, every quarter of the year. Additionally, we encourage everybody to do some type of sport activities, what we call holy concern, to ensure, obviously, that we are sweating the toxins out of our bodies. But not only that, we also encourage people to think a different way. Because you can do everything you want to do with your body, but if your thoughts are not in alignment with the things that you're doing with your body, then the mind has the power to be able to bring the body into a state of decay, because your mind is off, your mind is wrong. And so we encourage you also to think encouraging and positive thoughts. They say you are what you eat, right? But you also are what you think. And so we want to encourage people to think in a certain way so you can be able to manifest that in your actual life. Then we have, in the health center itself, we have delivered over 1,000 babies in natural birth. No epidural, nothing else. Right there in this institution, we've had more than 1,000 children since we arrived here in Israel to be born there. the members of the community, there's approximately 2,500 members of this community here in Israel. And so, I mean, we're talking about almost 40% of the children, or almost 40% of the community with children who were born in this specific institution here in Israel. Let's move on. We also have the Nation Store. Now, inside of this store, we are selling organic and vegan foods only. Fruits, vegetables, grains, beans, and then you have all the other products like tofu and seitan and others that are kind of, these are products that are alternatives to meat, egg, fish, dairy, etc., etc., etc. And then in this Nation Store, obviously the prices are much lower than what they are in other places in the world, because we grow a significant amount of our foods also with no pesticides or anything like that. And a lot of the foods, the processed things like tofu and others are actually produced within the community, because we have the two largest factories that are producing vegan food in Israel, which are Teva Deli and Otent TV, are from the community, producing vegan foods for Israel in general. These two factories are coming from the community, so we have that ability to also to manage what we are consuming as well. We also have a sewing center. We have a sewing center that allows for the sisters or the brothers, whoever would like to come in. You can design your own clothes. You could sew your own clothes. And so you look at most members of the community who are actually producing their own clothes. They don't have to go out and buy. They just buy materials and then they come to the sewing center and sew whatever it is that they have in mind. So it allows you then to be as creative as you could possibly be in this instance. And we could go on through other institutions as well. But now I want to deal with some of the ministries, because I started to tell you about the Ministry of Education, right? The Ministry of Education of the community is responsible for the school and other curriculums that are within that area. You have the Ministry of Health that is responsible also for the health and everything in that area. And they then determine when is Raw Week, when is Sugarless Week, and all of those things. You also have the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, right? The Ministry of Foreign Affairs, which is responsible for a lot of the development in other places outside of Israel, because we have extensions, or we call them jurisdictions, in other places in the world. In the United States of America, in Ghana, in Benin, in Togo, throughout South Africa, in East Africa, Kenya. We also have in Europe, in the UK, in Germany, and we also we've developed internally diplomatic teams that are responsible then for going and representing the community, and at times operating alongside Israel in certain arenas. And so, this is what our Ministry of Foreign Affairs is responsible for. We've had people to come up to Israel, operating within the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, led by the ambassador of the community, His Excellency Prince Asiel bin Israel, who has since passed away. But the structure is still in place. And so when we bring people like Whitney Houston and Bobby Brown to Israel, that's under the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. When we bring the Neville brothers, that's under the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. When we brought Stevie Wonder, that's under the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. When we have Megan Good, Blair Underwood, that's under the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. When we have Mama Winnie Mandela to come up, that's under the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Then we have internally the Ministry of Information. That within the Ministry of Information, you also have the Department of Public Relations. So in Dimona, in the city that the community is actually residing in the Village of Peace, you have approximately 35,000 people who reside in the city in Dimona. But check this. The community itself is responsible for more than 10,000 visitors to the city a year that are coming just to visit the community. This is under the jurisdiction of the Ministry of Information and the Office of Public Relations. 10,000 visitors. I mean, we've made Dimona practically into a tourism city. And there's nothing to look for in the city outside of coming to see the community. And this is how we operate. We bring in these people to visit the community, to visit Dimona and to visit the community, like I said. We also have the Ministry of Economics, or Ministry of Abundance, that is responsible for the economic operation within the community, right? Who's responsible for the development of the community's economical system. Under that ministry, under the Ministry of Economics, all of the enterprises, all of the businesses of the community are actually operating within their jurisdiction. So as I said, you have so when I say that you have the two largest vegan producing factories that are under the jurisdiction of the community itself, O10 TV and also Teva Deli, they're operating under the Ministry of Economics. You also have the Ministry of Sports and Recreation. So the Ministry of Sports and Recreation is responsible for continuing to produce and to provide sports activities throughout the year and regularly to be able to allow us all to remain in the greatest health. And so you have other enterprises like yoga, who is, you have somebody who's leading a regular yoga program daily or a few times a week, if I'm not mistaken. You also have a workout program. You have a group of sisters who are leading, and brothers as well, by the way, who are leading workout programs for the elderly, for children, for middle-aged people. They're leading those programs. Some of the programs are called Movement is Life, or Life is Movement, something like that, if I'm not mistaken. So they're operating under the Ministry of Sports and Recreation. We have our softball team in Israel that's called the Mean Judeans. We also had a basketball team in the past, but that's no longer operating. But we have a softball team that's called the Mean Judeans that have actually won a significant amount of championships here in Israel. Because you have a softball league, and we've won we've overdone everybody at times in this specific league, and we have people who are representing also the community on the national softball team of Israel. We also have young members of the community who've actually been accepted into, or who are actually playing for some of the basketball teams, the official basketball teams here in Israel, in the second and third division, which is absolutely incredible. But these things are developed within the community itself. So we used to have 3-on-3 programs, 3-on-3 basketball tournaments. You also have the track and field tournament. We had also a bunch of members of the community who've won in track and field. Some who are actually running or participating in the Maccabiah, which is kind of like the Olympics of Israel, or of the Jews in Israel. They're coming from all over the world, representing various countries. So we've had people who represented the community on teams like Maccabi Tel Aviv, for example, in track and field, and have done phenomenal. So all of this is under the Ministry of Sports and Recreation. Now, I can go on and on and on about these, but I just wanted to give you just a few examples for what it looks like to be able to produce or to establish such institutions, businesses, and enterprises, and also ministries to allow for our society to be able to function. And this is why I say that this is a great working model for our people wherever they may be in the world. Thank you so much for listening. As always, I ask you, if you're liking and enjoying any of the content, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave me a comment below. Tell me what you think about it. Until then, you have a great day, and looking forward to speaking to you soon.